Craig Berube has called out his team once again and following one of the more disappointing losses of the season thus far. Not only did Craig Berube call out the defense, but he called out one player in particular. We're going to break that down as well as discuss some big updates as folks, the Leafs have a serious problem on their hands, as well as highlight the very encouraging performance of Dennis Hildeby. A lot to go over today, including an injury update that is a little bit sickening once again. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your ass support has been unbelievable. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. Darius, brutal loss yesterday. Brutal, just bad all across the board from goaltending to, besides one goaltender in particular, but we'll dive into that later. Craig Berube, once again, I feel like we've had like 4 videos of this already, even though we're only a month or so into the year. He called out the team. And we know the game ended with Fraser Minton, of all people, getting the dagger, Stolarz being pulled, Scott Laughton getting hit, all bad. And Craig Berube simply came out and said, and we'll dive into Laughton's injury in a minute here. He said he's frustrated by the inconsistency. We all have to be better, the goaltender included, and that we're not as tight defensively as last year. Now, he didn't go out and he didn't blast his defense like he has in the past, but he did say that they need to be better. He called out Anthony Stolarz, and he also called out the defensive unit for how bad they were yesterday. I want to get your thoughts on this, Darius, because it was about as bad of a game as you could have drawn up. Now, yes, obviously they've had worse games, getting shut out, all these different things, and the Bruins are playing really good hockey. But the reason I say one of the worst losses, they should have won that game, and they should have, most importantly, given a much better effort than what they did. But at the end of the day, it was interesting to have a chance to bounce back tonight.
Yeah, they should have won that game, right? Like they played well enough, I think, in certain aspects of that game, or not even that. Like I just think, you could have won that game if you tightened up, especially in the first period, and you were going for all 60 minutes, which there's a lot of teams around the league that don't do that, but don't be one of those teams. And I think one thing that is very underrated, not too many people are talking about, when there are injuries with the Leafs, they're missing Tanev, right? And there are a couple other guys, and we'll get to another injury update in a second. They have a lot of guys coming into the lineup that have been here before. They don't have to get acclimated to a system. They're not new players. That's an underrated thing that I think they did from this offseason heading into the season, is keep a lot of guys around that are used to the system and can come in pretty seamlessly, right? But he called out everybody, including goaltender, which was clearly Stolarz, because Hildeby actually played very well. He only let in 1 goal, and he made more saves than Anthony Stolarz in the game and played more minutes than him in the game. So clearly it wasn't about Hildeby, who's been great so far this season. Obviously his first start, but obviously if you go back and look at the preseason, his time with the Marlies has been good. So one thing that concerns me is he's saying we're not as tight defensively. It's the same defense core, right? So what has happened there? And I think it has to do with the forwards as well. Not too many guys are locked in. You can see Robertson's playing a full 200-foot game right now. He's been really good, but I wonder if that has to do with, he's talking about a unit, cohesive unit as a team. They've been very inconsistent so far this year. That's one thing we've been clamoring about with certain players individually, but as a unit, as a team, they have also been very inconsistent and not as tight defensively. And that concerns me. That specifically concerns me, Nick, because it's the same group as last year. You're missing a couple players and you added a couple in terms of the offensive group, the forward group, but it's the same defense core, even when guys are hurt. The scratches that are coming in, the 7th defenseman, the guys from the Marlies, they're all the same guys. So I wonder if they'll take a look at a guy like Villeneuve now or something like they make a call like that. Obviously, we're going to get a resolution here on David Camp pretty soon. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But I wonder if they start doing stuff like that because it's all the same personnel. And, why haven't you gotten going yet? They're playing better this month, that's for sure. But that's a game I don't know if you can lose. No matter how good the Bruins are playing, that game was definitely within reach.
Yeah, and they do play tonight. You can see the bottom there. They host the Hurricanes tonight, which Caden Primo, these obviously got reclaimed over there. But Morgan Riley, the bad news is he's been playing better, at least offensively this year than previous years, and they're still not finding a way to do it. You can see here, not the things you want to hear at all, need to be better. And Anthony Stolarz spoke out about him needing to be better. I've got to bear down and make a save. Giving up 2 in the first 2 shots is not a good way to start the game. Spoke about Hildeby being awesome, put him in a horrible situation, handle it like a pro. It's obviously not up to par. It seems like every night you're giving up 1 or 2 you want back, but for me, it's the life of a goalie. So I'm not necessarily worried about Stolarz at all. He is a very good goaltender. No. Obviously, yesterday, bad game, really, really bad game from him. And it started off bad bouncers, obviously technical things. But I guess the bigger problem here is just the way the losses are happening. But also, the storyline of the season isn't about things like John Tavares, because look at how good he's been. 19 points in 15 games. William Nylander's been one of the best, if not the best player in the NHL. Definitely the best player on the Leafs this year. But all that doesn't matter at least not being talked about because of the fact that the defense is collapsing, the goaltending is collapsing, the Leafs are losing games. And Tavares came out and tried to settle the storm a little bit, saying, I don't think we're in a horrible spot, but certainly I don't think we've maintained the level of play that we expect and what our standard is. We have not been as consistent as we'd like to be at the start of the season. No reason for panic. And I agree with them here, but it does suck that everything is being over. Like, they're getting great seasons from everyone you needed great seasons from. If you told me Tavares had 20 points in 15 games, Nylander's leading the league in 5-on-5, even strength goals, and that all these different things are happening, I thought they'd be at top of the Atlantic. Instead, they're in the middle of the pack, and the Montreal Canadiens out of nowhere have 10 wins already. It's not a good spot to be in, no matter what way you look at it. Now, they have lots of time to come back, but it is a pretty big problem, and they have to fix it soon here because the season, yes, it's very long, but if you start to fall behind, it's very tough to come back.
And a lot of people will look at that quote. And again, John Tavares has been awesome. Him and Nylander, best players on the team for sure, right? Like you said, if you told me that John Tavares would have 19 points to start the season in 15 games, I probably wouldn't have believed you, honestly. I know that he played at a great level last year, but he is off to, and I talked about this in the live stream last night a little bit, he's off to his best start as a Leaf in his 8th season at 35 years old. That's insane. He's putting up insane numbers, and he's doing things on the defensive side of the puck, winning faceoffs, all of that stuff still. But anyway, all of that to say, a lot of people are going to look at this quote and say, maybe it is time to hit the panic button. You should be first in the Atlantic, all this stuff, right? It's a long season. I don't actually think there is a reason to panic, but there will be at some point. I promise you that there will be at some point coming up soon here. And the reason for that is because a lot of the mistakes that they're making and a lot of these issues are things that can be cleaned up. They're just playing sloppy with the puck. They're not taking care of the puck. They're making some weird decisions. The defense can't break out the puck fast enough. Like, these are things that can be cleaned up and you can be conscious of. So for those reasons, I'm not going to panic yet, because if they do clean it up, we've seen flashes where they have been pretty brilliant. And, you know, similar to the team that we've seen in the past, or you don't forget how to play hockey overnight. So for those reasons, I'm not going to panic yet, but there is going to be a point in this season that if they're at a certain point in the standings, I will start to panic a little bit if they're not cleaning some of this stuff up, because we know that they can. So it is still, you know, early season growing pains for certain guys, I guess. But, you know, all of that to say, a couple guys are having fantastic performances to start the year, and they're really good 5-on-5. Couple power play goals last night. They have to build momentum off of that.
Yeah, power play looked good, at least the second unit, and obviously look at the lineups they're running. I think the lineups have looked better, and the offense hasn't been that big of an issue, at least as of late. But the defensive core, I mean, it's the same veteran-filled unit. I mean, you look there, the youngest guy is Benoit at 27. You can hardly call him a veteran either way. But, I mean, you have Riley, Carlo, OEL, McCabe. Like, they should be, out of everything, the most stabilizing factor on this team, along with the goaltending, but it hasn't really been that way. And I agree with you. I think Philip Myers should be gone at this point for William Villeneuve, just to change things up. I don't think Myers has looked great. He looks not confident at all with the puck yesterday, but again, I don't want to harp on it too much. Get some new faces in there on the blue line. But something that is looking good is now again, Scott Laughton. Let's dive into that injury a little bit here. He was looking okay, but he won't play on Sunday, and the severity of the injury is unknown. Brutal. I mean, brutal on a lot of reasons. And obviously, Fraser Minton scoring the goal yesterday didn't help, even though that was a part of the Brandon Carlo trade. A lot of people kind of jumbled them together. That the lines are looking better, though. And of course, Michelli's starting to get his feet under him, had a goal against his former team. You have now, that fourth line was looking pretty good. Lorenz had a rough one yesterday, giving up that turnover into the easy goal when he smashed his stick. But if Laughton's out again, boy, oh boy. Easton Cowan, welcome back to realistically, it's probably Calle Jarnkrok, but it's going to be just brutal luck for him. And that trade is looking, quite frankly, like a bit of a disaster so far.
Well, if Calle Jarnkrok is going to come in for the time being, because he's not going to play today in the game today. So Calle Jarnkrok will come in. If he ends up going on LTIR again, because I at first thought it was concussion protocol, but then he didn't return to the game. And it could be precautionary, but he's not playing tonight, right? So that's not good news. And that's tough. Tough news for Scott Laughton. He's only played 2 games so far this season. And Kevin Bieksa kind of leaked it, I guess, on the intermission report that he broke his foot earlier this year. I don't know. He threw that out there. I don't know if it's true, but he did say that. So, I thought that was interesting. So tough luck for him. And like you said, the trade is not looking great in and of itself, but he's a great player when he's healthy on this team. He makes a huge difference, but he's only played 2 games so far this year. So tough luck. We'll see what happens in terms of the lineup. I imagine it's just Jarnkrok coming in, but if he does go on long-term injury reserve, depending on what it is, we will see Easton Cowan again. So that'll be interesting to monitor.
Or trade, which is they're also heavily involved in, which will move everybody down. But let's know down below what your thoughts are on all this. They play tonight. We'll keep you updated every step of the way. See you later.